Andrew, thank you for joining us today on what's an awesome day here in Denver, and you're in South Carolina, correct?
Correct, Greenville. Yeah,
Awesome.
and we're on the front side of Hurricane Ian, so we're batting down, hoping for the best here.
Well, we're praying for you because that is seeing what happened to Florida is not something you want to see.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I think the up in our area, it's probably tornadoes or the like that's the biggest threat. So it would spawn storms that sort of hit the mountains and spin out into hurricanes.
Well, praying everyone's safe and
into tornadoes. Yeah,
protected. On that note, would you be able to kind of just give us a brief overview of kind of your journey, how you got to where you are, and then also what your company's currently focusing on?
Sure. So going to school, I didn't have any set understanding of what I wanted to do, other than I thought it would be in business. I grew up inside a family business and just seemed to like it and have a knack for it, and so I knew I would be in business somehow. I got into packaging early in my career because I did an internship through my college. So I happened to play football for Wofford College, a small school that had a big name donor who was also the owner of the Carolina Panthers, Jerry Richards.
Just a small football team.
who sponsored scholarships that included experiences in the summers. And I worked for Sunoco Products, which makes packaging, about a $5.5 billion packaging company. And I just loved it. I just loved the problems it solved, and I liked manufacturing. I liked how immediate it was, and so after going to graduate school, I went back to Sunoco to start my career. And I worked for Sunoco for 16 years and did all kinds of things. Got a pretty complete background in all things operations, from purchasing and supply chain to quality to running a plant to running a group of plants to having my own P&L. It was a neat business, trash to cash, we called it. It was recycling old boxes and making mostly cardboard packaging. So I was with them for a while, 16 years, and I started to understand that I needed to branch out in my career, or I was going to be a company lifer. I sort of had figured that out by that time. I stayed put where I was through the recession of 2007, 2008, and then was looking for a next opportunity, and really found one first inside a flexible packaging business based out of Chicago called Coveris. And I'm married. I've got 4 kids. They were approaching high school at the time, and we said, you know what, we think Chicago is going to have some, we like this. We like some of the places we could put them into school. It kind of worked for the family, worked for me. So I went to Coveris and really took a lot of what I had learned in the first part of my career, and I was able to put it to work there, and had a lot of success running the operations of Coveris, which was a flexible packaging company that is now part of TC Transcontinental. And I got the experience of carving out and selling that business.
Nice.
I saw how private equity offered a chance for professional managers to participate in equity and participate in value creation, and wanted to do more of that. So anyway, eventually I found my way into the CEO job here at Parkway.
And what does Parkway focus on?
So Parkway makes engineered components and assemblies for durable goods. So we do a lot of different things. We've got different process technologies. Probably the most common would be injection molding with thermoplastics.
Okay.
We also do something called magnesium thixo molding, which is essentially injection molding of magnesium. We do CNC machining, very precise tolerance work. We do thermoset molding as well, which is a different set of materials that have neat properties that allow it to go into non-conductive sort of applications, electronics and that. So we focus on 5 different process technologies to solve problems, really. It's getting in front of engineers more than it is purchasing people, and working with them to say, okay, how do we solve a particular problem for you? How do we scale something up that has good form, fit, function, and then how do we take that and then scale it up at a price point that works for your application. So it could be anything from infrastructure to lawn and garden to agriculture, some industrial products, some medical products, aerospace and defense, and we do a little bit of transportation as well. But we do that with a variety of raw materials and processes.
So it would be pretty bespoke, very customized based on what their challenges are.
Everything is. We don't make anything that's for sale to to more than one customer. Everything is bespoke. We have a application engineering function that picks up at sort of design for manufacturing. So once a company knows they want to make something, we'll come in and help them with the engineering of the tooling and everything required to make it. The earlier we're in that process, the better, and we can then help them get that made and realized.
That's fantastic.
It's a fantastic business.
It seems like there's a lot of need, and it kind of leads me to my first question: is overall, are you positive or apprehensive in the next 12 months in your industry?
I'm fairly positive. We really don't serve some of the markets that we would anticipate being in a downturn. Fortunately, so there's nothing housing related. There's nothing that we think is completely consumer discretionary. They are really parts that are consumed and needed in many important durable goods that we think there's pretty strong demand for. So we don't see we see strong order backlog and order book. So the outlook so far looks pretty good. And we're apprehensive. I mean, we've seen the supply chain crisis. We've seen the difficulties over the past few years with all things related to manufacturing. So
it's interesting.
We're humble when we say we think it's going to be okay, but we got to be nimble because it's a challenge to respond to all sorts of different wild inputs.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people have weathered the storms. I mean, for us, we went through COVID. We went through a typhoon destroying kind of one of our locations, and now kind of as things come, you've seen the perseverance of the staff. You've seen the perseverance of just figuring things out and having a great organization to kind of last and stay on their feet and push through it. So we got to be careful, but at the same time, I've noticed not just yourself, but other CEOs that I've talked to is we've gotten through a lot of stuff. So what makes us think we're not going to be able to get through the next iteration of whatever comes our way?
Oh, we will. I mean, so Parkway, I don't know if you see the picture behind me. It's founded in Cincinnati in 1946. So you think about the last few years and think there was a lot of change, and that's true. But wow, since 1946, a lot of things have happened, and it all comes back to having the right team, the right culture. People make the difference, right? That's 100%. That's how it happens in the end.
Yeah, companies aren't machines; they're not robots. They're people that need to be. They need to know how to use them. But I couldn't agree with you more. Would you say that has hiring and retaining good staff become kind of stagnant, easier, or harder?
Well, compared to when, I guess, is the
with the
question.
pandemic, kind of like from coming out of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's easier than during the pandemic. I mean,
Okay.
I think there was it was probably at its most difficult maybe a year ago or so, year and a half ago, and I think we're in a better place now. Um, a
Are
little bit. I've seen more stability. I've just seen more stability and more appreciation that we're at a place where, okay, it's been a wild hiring market, but um, we now need to make a commitment to a business that's going to see us through the next part of our career. So there's definitely been a reimagining of how work should happen, and people asking lots of questions about their role, and we've answered a lot of those different challenges and questions. Our HR department has been able to do some neat stuff, but I think we're better than we were a year ago, and I'm expecting that that the way forward is a little bit easier than the rearview mirror.
Yeah, and do you see a lot of wage creep in that
We do.
process?
Yeah, we do. We have seen a lot. We continue to see it. I think everybody's going to believe that it's going to continue until it doesn't. The Fed's got to be. They've got to see evidence that inflation isn't moving anymore to say that it is. But I expect to continue to see inflation in both inputs and wages, and continue to think we'll have to deal with that with productivity or with passing it through to customers between now and whenever the inflation does in fact subside. But it's still an inflationary market for sure.
Yep. And would you say how much more virtual work do you do now relative to when you before the pandemic?
Say it again. How much more commercial?
No, virtual. So yeah, like kind of hybrid work from home. How much change in your industry versus? Do you see a lot of different ways of approaching how work is done, or is it obviously you're manufacturing as well?
No, I see different ways work is done. I mean, so in manufacturing, out in the plants, obviously that's done in person. There's no way to do that virtually.
Yeah.
But I think all the different service functions for the business, whether it's HR, IT, just certain management leadership discussions we can have virtually, sales calls. I think many companies are open to having in-person sales visits now, but still a lot of that happens virtually. So I would say inside the operations of the company, not much change, but inside all the support functions and what we call field support, a lot more virtual. Probably half of what we used to do in person is been replaced by virtual, some type of virtual processes.
That's great. And then based on kind of that, how around operations, how clearly documented and about kind of your activities with KPIs, like how structured are your processes from that? So when you went kind of in the office and now things virtually, how structured or streamlined are you now?
I think our processes are better streamlined now than they were then. Certainly, there was some streamlining that had to happen for it to happen virtually. Our KPIs and those sorts of things have always been pretty tight, and they're we're a manufacturing business, and you've got to manage all kinds of KPIs, whether it be around safety, environmental, customer service, cost, cash flow. engagement. We've been getting tighter on those things, by virtue of just really pursuing operating excellence. And we continue to do that and continue to believe in that. And then on the virtual side, I mean, there are metrics that we have today that we didn't used to have in the past. Things like tracking our sales force, which is doing a lot of virtual work, and looking at how many meetings we're having, how many of those are in person, just trying to make sure that we understand the dynamics of how we're going to market.
It's fantastic. And then what would you say your biggest market prediction is for the next year?
My biggest market prediction, well, I mean, this will sound pretty easy, but I think just, electrification will continue. So digitalization, electrification, these things are happen to be good for our business, and I expect them to continue just in spades in the coming year. The energy crisis in Europe certainly will spill over into, it's a global integrated energy market, so I think that it will affect all of us, and I think we'll see more and more products that demand battery electric technology and, in some way, digital process.
That's fantastic. Andrew, really appreciate your time, your insight, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure. Sure. Enjoy Denver.
Thank you.
And not traveling.